listening to Casey and Company on Talk Radio 680 WCBM.
Welcome back to Casey and Company on our Newsmaker Hotline. Coming up in this segment, Harford County Executive Bob Cassilly joins us. Good morning, Mr. County Executive, and happy St. Patrick's Day.
Good morning. Top of the morning. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody out there. It's a beautiful one, too.
Indeed, and the rest of the day to you, sir. Let's start with you have, along with other county executives, it looks like the governor and the legislature are going to pass some of this budget burden on to you at the county executive level. How do you expect to deal with that?
Well, yeah, this has been a challenge, and what's helped us get through it is we kind of saw this in the first year. I'm 3 years in now, and it's my fourth budget coming up, and we started tightening up and trying to make do with what we got, better, more efficiencies in government. But it's really just disingenuous the way the state keeps pretending that they're cutting expenses while all they're really doing is sloughing it off from the state to the county. And we both use the same taxpayers, so from a taxpayer standpoint, whether they're paying it through the county or through the state, they're still paying it. And we've seen them increasingly take our highway user revenue away. We've seen them throw more pension costs onto us, and it just keeps the shift keeps going, and they keep taking high fives for reducing state expenditures, which is just not the case at all. I mean, I look at highway user revenue when that started. About 35% of that was going out to the counties in the city. And that's fallen dramatically. If we, in present value, if we were still getting what we were originally getting out of highway user revenue, which was going towards paving highways, that was it. You use the highways, we're using that revenue to pave the highways, fix the highways. In today's terms, that's about $40 million that we would be getting. We're getting like $2 to $3 million now. So that's a huge cutoff in what we're getting, our ability to maintain our county roads, which is the majority of the roads that we have. So this continual bleed. The state, the schools, of course, we're picking up a greater share of school construction, which, of course, just the cost of school construction itself, no matter who's paying for it, has really ballooned. But as we continue to pick up a bigger share of that, teachers' pensions and the like, it's making it difficult. And we're determined not to raise taxes. We're holding the line out here. But that means we're doing without some stuff. We're really relying on greater efficiencies, and it's getting tougher every year.
Is it disingenuous, Bob, that the state, we just had the Board of Revenue estimates, and they're saying they're expecting a little bit of a windfall in this year. So the state's going to have more money for their purposes, but then to try to balance this budget on the backs of the counties.
Yeah, and look, they have to be careful when they get these windfalls, because we all know that the big share there is from the income tax, and that's been increasingly volatile over the years. One year it pulls in very well, and the why is sort of unclear. It could be because people reacting to changes in the federal tax code, but we see these peaks, and then we see big valleys as once that little sugar high there works its way through the system. So what we prefer to do is when we get a little bit of extra is we reduce our long-term debt. And we do one term, things like a new roof that's on a building instead of financing that, rather than assume that's going to be a long-going increase in revenue, which has been good for us at Harford County, because we know that we have seen it goes up and down. Just the property tax is usually a fairly steady haul, but not income tax.
All right. More with Harford County Executive Bob Cassilly in just a moment. We've got lots of other issues to discuss, and right now let's pause for an update on what's happening. Traffic and weather on the threes, and now the king of all traffic, Chuck Whitaker.
All right, so to back up on the Beltway, if you're coming up from 95, Southwestern Boulevard, Wilkins Avenue, you're wondering what in the world is going on. The wreck is all the way up at the ramp at I-70, and it's pretty much on the right side, but it's been there for a while, and they've been looking at it, so you have to come up the hill from Wilkins to Frederick to Route 40, Edmondson Avenue, and then up to I-70 before you get in the clear. Once again, everybody else on the Beltway now is pretty much the normal delay. 795, the accident was in the right lane, southbound, right before the Beltway, and the traffic was still backed up to the bridge at McDonough Road. It's moving a little better now, which could indicate that they may have the vehicles off to the side, but in the meantime, you're slower than you normally would be. And then, of course, the heavy traffic going down the west side is adding to that. Couple of wrecks in Anne Arundel County as you're traveling at Route 100 at 170. Earlier, that was a problem on both sides of the road. And then westbound Route 32 at Route 175. And we're still in the area of a little more than 15 minutes with the backups southbound at both the harbor tunnels. I'm Chuck Whitaker with traffic and weather on the 3s on Talk Radio 680 WCBM.
Fox 45 Weather Authority forecast. Partly sunny this morning. It's going to be cold and windy today. And pretty much the same for tonight. Temps in the mid-20s. Winter stays with us Wednesday. Then Thursday we start warming up a little bit. Get ready for spring on Friday. It's windy and 29 in Forest Hill, 31 in Dundalk. On our Newsmaker hotline, Harford County Executive Bob Cassilly. And we saw one of the first acts out of this General Assembly, which you were a member of, was to get rid of formal agreements, 287G, with local law enforcement, including Harford County. And now we have other bills that seek to place a gag order, if you will, on local law enforcement and participating with our federal partners. What do you think is driving this bus, Bob? What do you think is behind all of this?
You know, I look at, what's the real genesis other than just sort of this crazy progressive tide that's pushing it. What I don't understand is, while certainly you have that super progressive elite in the General Assembly that pushes every wacky progressive notion, I'm sort of at a loss to understand why so many in the Democrat caucus just go along with this stuff, because we've seen failure after failure in these big grandiose plans, and the latest one being the 287G attack. It's just so damaging, because when you look at our public safety, that there's some really bad people out there, internationally, nationally, locally, and the like. And we really rely on our public safety for the integrated, cooperation between our federal authorities, our state, our county, and our local authorities. Of course, at the federal level, they've got a lot more expertise in gathering the intelligence that the locals need. But what the locals have is the boots on the ground. I mean, overwhelmingly, the biggest force of manpower, woman power, whatever you have on the ground throughout the country is your county police forces, your city police forces, and the feds really rely upon that. And of course, we rely upon the feds to integrate all 50 states and all of the counties into a sort of a seamless web, so bad guys can't just hop from jurisdiction to jurisdiction in anonymity. And when the General Assembly comes out with these bills that are saying, hey, stop cooperating, whatever that's not cooperating for, it's very damaging. And so I think they're really doing lasting damage to the integration of law enforcement that's just so absolutely necessary to protect us from some really bad actors. And we saw how they interfered with the policing in previous General Assemblies, and the damage that's done to our policing that's still there, as it's difficult to recruit officers. A lot of people have left policing, and I'm concerned they're going to do lasting damage now to our policing, the relationship that our local authorities have with the feds, and not just on illegal immigration. Because once you start saying you can't trust, it's a matter of trust, and once we start saying, well, we're not going to cooperate on this and that, it's a real slippery slope. So I don't know why they feel like they can go down this without doing damage, even more damage to policing than the General Assembly's already done with their anti-police rhetoric and activities. So it's demoralizing, I can tell you that, to law enforcement.
Yeah, well, House Bill 675 would remove that gag order on local police, so that's a bill we want to keep our eye on, although it probably doesn't have much of a chance passing in this legislature. The other one we're looking at is this House Bill 827, and this would be state legislation that would prohibit a tax on vehicle owners based on miles driven, or a usage tax. This would be in addition to the existing gas tax. So that could certainly, we could certainly throw our support behind that.
Well, the bill that's out there to say that we're not going to have an automatic increase in the gas tax, that's a great bill. But then the other bill that's out there would say that we're going to tax you on your miles driven. Clearly is a shot at the rural counties, because they don't have as much public transportation, and you're gonna have to drive distances, and it favors the tight urban areas where it may take you 20 minutes to go a mile, and in the rural areas, 20 minutes you go, 5-10 miles. So and things are more spread out. So yeah, that one is an assault on the rural, the Republican jurisdictions. Let's face it, the red counties.
It's a commuter tax, right? I mean, you could call it a commuter tax.
It's a commuter tax.
Yeah,
it's a commuter tax. It's a commuter tax, and we already have an existing commuter tax. The red light cameras are clearly a major commuter tax, as we see how Baltimore relies upon those to pick up folks coming out of the counties in. So there's always an angle. They've always got another angle in here to squeeze our taxpayers, particularly the taxpayers in the red counties. So, but hey, we're all having fun. Right?
We'll end on that note. All right. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. Harford County Executive Bob Cassilly. Have a great day.
St. Patrick's Day.
All right, same to you.